create your own road show. The nexus of space and time, where you are now, is the most immediate sector of your universe. create your own road show. The nexus of space and time, where you are now, is the most immediate sector of your universe.
Are we on the YouTubes?
Yes. Hey, everybody. I'm going to start talking before the transition finishes because everybody else started talking before the transition finished, so might as well start doing it as well. We're not really here to do anything professional, so I'm just kidding. Welcome to Shadowcasters Network Live Show. We make our videos for the week here with you guys to hang out with while we do it. We're going to be talking about, normal news stuff this week. We've also got Oz is going to do some spooky Halloween tips for us for how to do stuff in your RPGs, and then we've got a deep dive. I'm going to try doing a deep dive on this Wizards of the Coast news of the lawsuit that was just filed for them. So that ought to be fun.
About this.
Yeah. It's I don't want to get into it because there's a lot to say, but I think that'll be a fun conversation. If you want to support us along the way, there's, of course, ways to do it in YouTube with super chats and stuff like that. Look into that. You can highlight your chats just supporting us that way. But also, of course, the way we love for people to help us out is through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/shadowcasters and help us out. The most popular level is the $5 warrior level. It's probably because you get the most value at that level. You get you get the patron-only Discord channels. You get stuff like access to the stupid game. You get these episodes you get in full after the fact. We normally, Odds, after he's done grabbing the videos and uploading stuff, he locks down the VOD because either you got to be live or you got to be a patron to see the full thing, and stuff like that. There's other things, so check it out and become a patron. Help us out. But before we do that, before we get into the show proper, I spent so much time. I fried so much food yesterday that it was. I've never deep fried so much food. I feel like I got my Southeastern United States citizen badge yesterday.
What'd you deep fry? What was the craziest thing you deep fried?
Well, the reason we were deep frying is because the state fair comes this time of year, and it's my wife Stephanie. It's her favorite thing. Halloween, October's her favorite month. Halloween's her favorite holiday, and the state fair she loves to do because they have such good food. State fair food is amazing, but of course we couldn't go this year. And they had this dumb thing that you could drive into where you ordered food that would be there, but it wasn't everything, and it was all the stuff that we didn't really care about, and that seems weird to just drive up to the fair that's like 40 minutes away and then hand you some food.
So like get a corn dog or something.
yeah. So I said, why don't we they just take random stuff and deep fry it, right? Well, I can do that. Having had no experience deep frying anything before, I can do that. So that's what we did. So you were asking, what's the weirdest thing we deep fried? Probably Oreos, which isn't that weird. But if you had to name the weirdest thing, we did a lot of typical things. Like we made little donuts, and we deep fried pizza, and homemade corn dogs. Have you never deep fried
pizza? I've never heard of. No.
Oh wow.
For what it's worth, I would totally drive to the fair just for that kind of food. That's the only reason I would go to the fair.
That is the only reason we go to the fair.
So that would save me like an entire day and a whole bunch of money if I could just drive up and hey, listen.
Because when you're at the fair,
two bacon wrapped, fried Oreos, and give me some of that double fried chimichanga, and
why don't you put a cheeseburger in between that?
You're right. I would totally do that. I would have an entire YouTube channel where
when you go to the fair,
it's crappy fair food today.
You have to walk around and look at stuff, and the only reason you're doing that is to fill the time before the next time you eat.
Yeah.
But
for me, when I think of fair food, I typically think of the Ren Fair down in Bristol, near my area. It's a pretty nice one, and the fair foods that I have there, like those roasted almonds with the cinnamon on them, or they've got these garlic mushroom things you get in a bowl, which is yummy, or the big ass turkey leg, and then of course getting half drunk on cider as you wander around and look at stuff that you don't have the money to buy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Our fair, when we used to go to it, I was only all about the rides because they had so many rides. All of them, I'm sure, were totally unsafe, and I was risking death every time I boarded them. But it was so much fun.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite?
Of the rides, my favorite it's called the Space Roller. You might have seen it. It's like it's 5 spokes like that are on a wheel, so that spins, but that's on an arm, and that arm like lifts up, spins, also rotates, the arm itself also rotates, and then all of the rows also flip. So it's literally just like it's rotating, and all the seats are just like flip, and like if you have a team with you that is really into it, you can like use the momentum to flip yourself a lot.
Yeah, I would never do that. That kind of thing makes me just want to. I would die. Yeah,
I would have loved that much longer ago, and I would not dare now.
Love it, and still love it.
Yeah. We're missing the fair this year, so are the kids. But yeah, deep fried Oreos. It was actually the first time I'd ever had them. They were delicious, and the deep fried pizza. You just make pizza into a ball. You wrap it up and you drop it into oil, and it's very good.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I did see somebody did fried Oreos, but they were bacon wrapped, and that I mean, I don't know why it looks disgusting and also really good at the same time.
Well, I think you just described every fair food, though.
Yeah, but I mean, the salty of the bacon with the sweet of the Oreo and a chocolate. I mean, chocolate with salt is a good mixture, like chocolate and sea salt. So it makes sense that like bacon and Oreos would mix.
Yeah, I think so.
We bought an air fryer this year. I found that to be pretty nice. It's not the same thing as deep frying, but if you like cover things in oil pretty well before you put them in, it's close enough, at least for things like fries, or we made homemade jalapeno poppers and a variety of other things.
I've been thinking about getting one of those as well. My question is, if you're covering it with oil anyway, like what's the big difference?
It's nowhere near as much oil, and it's not taking a bath in oil, so
Yeah, because the risk with deep frying is that when you drop it into the deep fryer, the temperature of the oil goes down, and you have to maintain a certain temperature to minimize. There's like a balance between like burning your food and it not. When you drop it in, it creates this like pocket of air and bubbles around the food. But if it gets too cold, it won't do that, and it'll start soaking up oil and gets really gross.
That explains an awful lot about my 20s. And how my cooking worked. I was like, why does this suck so bad?
Yeah.
Why does this taste so gross when I do it, but so good when other people do it?
Right. Well,
speaking of... That actually makes a lot of sense. Science Bobby strikes again.
Speaking of gross things that you've done, there's something that is not gross, but awesome that I heard that you have. Just go with it.
That is the opposite of the segue, Bobby.
Guys, just go with it. You showed us something before the show. Are you wanting to show people something, Opti?
I had not planned on it, but I certainly can. I got in a prototype for the Gangs of the Undercity stuff. Right?
Oh, so show that again. Let me get you a close up here. There we
Also,
go.
there's a big glare on it. If you can
Yeah.
maybe back it away a
Nice.
little bit.
Gangs of the Undercity.
Better. Yeah.
Look at that
So-
box.
Cool little box.
Uh-huh.
Right, and then we got the cool little dice. Which,
Nice.
let me see if I can get the logos to show up there. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, I don't know if you can, I'm not even gonna try to do that. Every time I try to do the focus thing on camera, it never works. So yeah, we got like the tokens.
Nice.
And then we got the well, these are the grit tokens for the deluxe version, right? They're like poker chips. So
Nice.
it's pretty cool. Pretty fancy as hell. And then this is the deluxe tape measure.
Yeah.
Again, I would sit here and try to get that to focus, but I'm not even gonna bother with it. Just trust me, it's all cool looking. And I'm pretty stoked. Like when he came in this week, I was like, "Oh my god! Oh my god!" And then I ran around showing all my family, who's like kind of burned out on this whole Gangs of the Undercity thing right now. So, but they all pretended to be very excited for me, and it was a very one more time. Like, and I like this box too. I'll show you. This is how the process works, right? So this is one box, right? And it's kind of got this. I learned what these boxes are called, by the way. They have this, which is called a. I said I learned what they're called, and this is me forgetting because I'm getting terribly old now. Anyway, there's a particular kind of box that this is, and then the dudes were like, "Hey, have you considered this kind of box?" And I'm like, "I kind of want to see both." They're like, "Okay, cool." And this one is just way cooler. Like this just feels cooler.
Speaking
So
of pizza and donuts, that's like a pizza and donut box.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a tuck box.
Nice.
Ha-ha! I remember.
Tuck box.
Wait, which one is the tuck box?
So this
The cool one or the
No,
or the one with the
this is
insert?
the tuck box, right? But
Okay.
not knowing what these are called, like you have no idea how to look for them. Like that's one of
Right.
the weird like barriers to entry for this kind of stuff. Is like I don't know how to go. Like I want a game box that you can fold. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like this is the corrugated tuck box, which is totally way sturdier. And I think this way I won't even need like a plastic insert. You know, if I can just get like a real good sticker or something like that right there, I think it should be good.
Yeah.
So that'll save me $1 at least on every game, which would be nice. So,
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
Very
excited.
proud of you.
Yeah, I can't wait to get
Thank
mine.
you. Thank you. Now I don't say this. Palmer's in the chat and he's gonna chastise me because he's been chastising me all week in such a good way. Like he's such a good friend, but he knows that I've been watching Three Kingdoms all week, and if I tell him when I got those and when I haven't shown them off, then like he's gonna be cross with me. I've been sitting on that a couple days, and I know I should have written an update.
Yeah.
But I got to find out what happens between Liu Bei and Cao Cao and Sun Quan. So that's
Very cool. Very cool. Well, very excited about it. Let's
thank you.
Yeah, let's go ahead
Cheers.
and get to the news and talk about some tabletop news before we get started for the day. All right. Oh, so we always like to warn everyone who's here for the live show that we're not, once we get to the end of the news or the end of any segment, if you haven't been here before, we're not actually going anywhere. These get cut up and put onto YouTube, so we act like it's the end, but it's not. So just sit tight. Hold your horses. All right. Hey everyone, it's October 22.
Hey, can you stop real quick?
I just did.
Since this isn't live.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get my glasses that don't glare.
Good.
So that-
Good.
Can I do that? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll be
that's
right back.
fine. I will entertain people. So, the
Bobby, since we were talking about shows, you remember last week you asked me to find out my review of Bly Manor. We finished it.
yes,
So The Haunting of Bly Manor. Meh.
good to know. That's
I
basically
don't
what I'd
regret
been.
watching it,
Sure,
but meh.
that's
We've
basically
been
what I'd been
watching
hearing.
one horror movie a week with our eldest kiddo, teenager. Each of us picking one. Let's see. My choice was Gremlins because Courtney hadn't seen that either.
Hmm.
It kind of holds up, but mostly doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got all the foibles of a 80s flick, I think. But also, I was surprised how many people were involved that I recognized from prominent later roles. Anyway, then Courtney's choice was 28 Days Later, which is actually my favorite horror movie.
Okay.
And that one does totally hold up. It's
Nice.
still my favorite horror movie.
Yes.
Mhm.
'Tis the season for all that.
Gabriel's choice was Scream, which was fun. I saw that
I
in the
love
theater.
Scream.
That was the only other time I'd seen it was when it first came out in the theater. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think I saw some of the other Scream movies, but I have no idea how many sequels there are now.
There are 4, and there's about to be a 5th coming out.
Whoa.
Ah, cool.
Revival.
It was a fun one to open the we're gonna watch some horror movies this month thing. We haven't decided what we're gonna do for the last one yet.
Mm-hmm.
We have a zombie movie covered. We have a slasher flick covered. We have the creatures going out of control thing covered.
Do you have Amazon?
So there's a few other horror genres. Yeah.
I suggest Hereditary.
What's that one about?
It stars Toni Collette, and she is. The thing is, it's one of those movies where, like, if I give anything away, it kind of like ruins it. But the best I can tell you is, the movie starts with her mother has passed away. They go to a funeral, and then you start finding out what the mother was into, and how it's affected the family, and then the family just starts to spiral out of control into like based off of the ghosts, or not the ghosts literally, but the things that she's left behind for them.
Cool. Well, like I said, 'tis the season, and that's fun.
I one time saw this vampire movie. It was the best vampire movie I ever saw, and I don't remember what it was because I was watching it on Cinemax when I was like 17. So I was trying to see some boobies, and I accidentally ended up watching this vampire movie. So at the end of this vampire movie, like the main character, is this gal who's she's accidentally dating a vampire, right? And she gets to the end, and the vampire is like about to eat her, like the final shoe dropped, and she's about to get eaten by the vampire. And this other dude showed up who had kind of been forming this love triangle. It was like actually now that I think about it, a little Twilight-esque. Well, now that I think about it, it's exactly like Twilight because at the very end, like no setup for anything, like this like Deus Ex Machina. The dude like turns into a werewolf and like kills the vampire. Like literally the last 5 minutes of the movie, no hints before that, just wolfs out and tears up the vampire. And I thought that was fucking brilliant. That was
Well, you got to figure out how to end your movie somehow. So.
But I guess the Deus Ex Machina would be like it was unwarranted, it was unearned, but it was such a left field thing that it felt really awesome, right? Like it felt like a gift more than a letdown. Right. But now that I say that, it is awfully like Twilight, and that's. I wonder if that chick saw the same show that I did. It was like, I'm gonna write a book about that someday.
All right, I'm gonna get into the news if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah,
you got some more. All right, here we go. Hey everyone, it's October 25th, 2020. My name's Bobby Frankenberg, and I'm here with the rest of the SCN crew here, and we're going to talk about some of the tabletop gaming news for the week. This week we're going to be talking about Pathfinder getting a board game. Fantasy Flight is announced the Descent Legends of the Dark game, and the OR Group published their Q3 2020 Roll20 usage data, so we're going to get into all of that. If you've got any news that you'd like us to talk about, just send it on over to us at the Discord channel. You can find that at shadowcasters.network/Discord, and consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/shadowcatchers. Patrons get plenty of rewards. Our most popular reward tier is a $5 warrior level, where you get most value for your dollar. Access to patron-only Discord channels, recordings of the full live show, priority in our Q&A, and you get to be part of the stupid game. Which
is the only important thing that you need to know.
Truly it is. So, all right, let's get on to the news. So, Pathfinder's getting a board game made by the games company Gyochi Unity, and it will be called Pathfinder Arena. And this game, to me, sounds cool AF, guys. It's a competitive board game that'll be set in the Age of Lost Omens setting. There's not a lot of details yet, but what we do know sounds pretty darn cool. Players will be controlling heroes that are clashing with each other and monsters in an arena-style combat. It'll be divided up into 4 stages of challenges between monsters and heroes. Monsters are going to be summoned in, but never leave their spot. Not quite sure what that means, but that's what they said. Heroes will level up, gather new resources, skills, spells, and equipment, and the layout of the arena will be dynamic, determined by tiles that can be moved by players. It's going to be 2 to 4 players, and the crowdfunding campaign is going to start sometime in 2021. And it sounds pretty cool to me. I like the arena style concept, so we'll keep you informed as we get more info about that. But speaking of board games, I've got another piece of board game news, and that is Fantasy Flight has announced their Descent Legends of the Dark game. A few months ago, Fantasy Flight Games coyly teased something at the end of one of their in-flight report streams, showing a massive Descent box that looked like none other before. Now, in case you don't know, Descent Journeys in the Dark is a fantasy adventure miniatures game for 2 to 5 players, where one player takes on the role of the treacherous overlord, controlling the game and guiding the other players through a story-driven campaign to kill monsters, find stuff, and complete quests. It's quite a popular game, and naturally people wanted to know what this new Descent box was all about. Well, Fantasy Flight finally revealed what it was all about. They're making a new game in the Descent universe called Descent Legends of the Dark. Personally, I don't know a lot about Descent. I've never played it. However, Oz has, and he plans to go more into a deep dive concerning the new info about the game next week. For now, though, since it was just announced, we wanted to give you some broad strokes about it. Before we do, Oz, I want to hear just high-level overview. What did you, from what you saw, was it, I presume that it sounds interesting to you since you want to get into it.
Yeah, so I got into second edition. So second edition was designed to be GM, kind of like what they call the Overlord versus the players. But then that board game was converted, or not converted, but they made an app version for it where the app takes care of the Overlord role for the players. And that's when I got into it, because we've found that, you know, having an Overlord, because we played Imperial Assaults, which is kind of the same setup where you have an Overlord and players, that it's really hard to get into sometimes and to like really create a challenge.
In fact, Imperial Assaults,
mm-hmm.
I think just is like a port of the, so to speak, of the Descent.
It pretty much is, yeah. And then eventually they also made an app for it. Yeah. But because the game wasn't designed to be an app driven, there's a lot of like little weird things that you have to like ignore or convert or whatever. And so this game is from the ground up designed to be an app.
Right.
And really hammer home that role play experience. There's a lot of different little things that I want to get into for sure, but I'm incredibly excited for it.
Yeah, and so to hit on the really broad strokes, just because we wanted to cover the news real quick, it's a lot of people are asking, but it's not a third edition of Descent Journeys in the Dark. They've said it's a brand new game in the same universe. It's still going to be a dungeon crawl board game. It's aiming to be more cooperative than second edition. It's got an app, like Oz has said, so no more Overlord is needed. There's going to be new mechanics, new miniatures. Everybody loves miniatures. And Oz is going to have more details on that next week. So look forward to that. The next bit of news is that the OR Group, which is the company responsible for starting Roll20, they just published their Q3 2020 industry report based on Roll20 data. The data has a lot of caveats and asterisks attached to it, but it's fun to kind of use it to get a feeling for what gamers are playing right now. It might even be more accurate than usual right now. This is my suspicion because of pandemic-induced shifts to online gaming, right? So what does the report say? Let's talk about it real quick. First of all, they said they hit a milestone of over 100 million total play hours logged on Roll20. That's pretty impressive. Wow. Yep. D&D 5e, of course, dominates, as you can imagine it often does, at a 53.26% of campaigns that were made were were D&D campaigns.
That's a huge domination of the market.
Yeah. It's over just over half of the people who are playing games are playing D&D on Roll20. At least the campaigns that are tagged as that game when you set up a Roll20 campaign.
Sure.
So, we've also got Call of Cthulhu has been growing through the year to 11.3%. So that's good. So that's the next one down. You've got
Call of Cthulhu, really?
Yeah, that's the next one down right now, and quite a leap from 53% to 11%. And there's a lot of games, so you can imagine that there's not a lot of room left below them because they have to split up all the rest of that huge
11% in that market. It seems actually really, really good.
I
would be pleased with that.
It is.
It makes sense to me. Yeah, Call of Cthulhu's had a very, very strong presence in gaming conventions all over as well.
Yeah. So here I'm going to pop up some of the numbers here, and we'll see if I can get them. But while we're looking at it, so it seems like the Call of the Cthulhu numbers they even say seems to make sense because Roll20 now has a compendium support for Call of Cthulhu, and they just had their Harlem Unbound adventure or module that went to Roll20. But while they point that out, it's actually less than it was last year at the same time. It was 18% at the same time last year. So who knows? Who knows what that means? The next one is Pathfinder coming in at 5.5%. If you're looking at the screen, it looks like 3.87%. But if you combine Pathfinder and Pathfinder 2nd Edition, it comes in at 5.5%. So right there, all three of those is something like, 70-80% of the pie, I think.
Shadowrun doesn't even make the top, 10?
So Shadowrun is on the list. They have some data all the way down on their site which lists basically everything. And once you get below D&D 3.5, which has 1%, it's all below. It's all sub 1% numbers. And Shadowrun comes in at 15th at 0.42% of campaigns being Shadowrun, which is right around Blades in the Dark and Dungeon World and Fate. So. Interesting stuff. Star Wars and Starfinder are in there as well, and yeah. So, are there any games that you're surprised not to see in that higher up in that list?
Cyberpunk, probably.
Cyberpunk,
especially because we're going near, we're this close to the video game releasing. But yeah, Cyberpunk 2020 is at 0.16% in Cs, and Red, which is the recent one, is 0.09.
Yeah,
I think we'll see a bump. We'll see a bump.
Where does Savage Worlds sit? Is that showing up on there?
Savage Worlds comes in at 0.47%, above Shadowrun, but just above, just a couple of notches above Shadowrun. But yeah, that's what we've got for Roll20 kind of stuff. 100 million hours logged. What I didn't dig into is that just this year? They didn't say. They just said it was 100 million hours.
The way you said it made it sound like that was like total hours played since Roll20 started amongst all games, which it sounds like a lot of time, but it's also been around for a while, and there's a lot of people using it as a free
I just looked. I joined Roll20 back in 2014, I think. So it's been around for a while.
I mean, how many people? If 1 million people played it, and they played for 100 hours, that's reasonable, right? I mean, over.
Well, that would be 10,000. 1 million divided by 100 is 10,000.
Yeah. I don't know, whatever.
Side note, something interesting that I like about this report, or that I noted about this report, was they made the same observation that I did back in my Morkborg video or segment, where if you combine Apocalypse World and all the games that are in that kind of flag, they're the 6th most popular system. They outrank Starfinder just below Pathfinder.
Yeah. You're right. They did note that all of the Apocalypse World stuff is sort of. It's a lot more popular than maybe we commonly give it credit for because it's so many different games, But it's up there. So interesting.
I guess I didn't have and again, I think you're right with all the caveats and whatnot. I understand that, but I guess when you're at a convention or when you're talking with people or when you go into a bookstore or whatever, it doesn't convey immediately exactly how much bigger Dungeons and Dragons is than even the next biggest role-playing game.
Yeah, I think when you go to a convention, everybody's excited to try new things, right?
Yes and no. I mean, like, yes, they of course are, but like my point was that like the D&D booth is not significantly bigger than the Catalyst booth, like especially like at certain conventions, right? I mean, so
yeah, if we imagine this being like a share of the dealers hall at Gen Con, over half of the dealers hall would be just D&D stuff.
Yes, okay, right, like so like affiliate type stuff, right? Like not necessarily Wizards of the Coast, but like they're in their orbit. That makes sense. Yeah. But still, like if I go to a con, like I can't remember the last time I'm like, yeah, there's some D&D stuff. You know what I mean? Like I was just focused on other things.
Well, it's been a little bit less present at Gen Con these last couple of years with WotC just not showing up.
That's fair.
Oh, well, that may account for why I didn't see them.
They showed up. The last year they showed up at Gen Con was the year that 5th edition came out, and since then they've just been, see ya, we don't care.
They just don't need it, right? Like they just don't need to do it. Everybody else like absolutely needs to do that in order to like drive sales and excitement, and they just like, well, we're just too big.
I think it's an incredibly foolish thing for them to pass up on. And
you need to come to D&D Con.
Yeah, but there's a lot about how WotC runs things that I don't necessarily.
It does seem short-sighted.
Positive opinion of,
right? Because like I won't say all of it, but like a lot of the rewards that they're reaping right now are as a result of the sort of things that were planted 15 or 20 years ago, right? All those people who started playing back then are now like coming into their own and continuing it on and passing it on to the next generation. I think it is a little short-sighted to not continue to hit every single possible vector of getting new fans. But hey, for right now, right? I mean, I'm sure that whoever is in charge over there is going to retire before the next generation.
Yeah, no, I don't think it can be said that they've been resting on their laurels either. They've been pretty active, pushing things forward.
That's true.
Involving different innovations in game design and
the
doing
Baldur's Gate
big things moving forward. If I was more into it, I could come up with specific examples. But
I heard people talk about the Baldur's Gate video game, and as much as I want to get into it, I've decided to not get into it because
it's still early access, so I would wait unless you're super into it.
That's a good reason. That's a good excuse for me to wait.
Well, there's a lot of franchising going on like that, and through their toys, but also we've got I mean, they just came out with the hugely, by all accounts, from what I've seen, popular or generating a lot of excitement adventure, the Rime of the Frost Maiden, the Icewind Dale adventure that just came out. That's a huge book with a lot of stuff in it. So they're still doing stuff, but I agree with the short-sighted assessment. Like they're probably not like I'm sure they've got people crunching the numbers and they just decide like, okay, we're not really like making extra money by going here, And so that's probably why
it's just goodwill, right? Yeah. It's goodwill and good experiences for people who go to them. If people have really good feelings and warm fuzzies when they think about D&D because they went to the convention at one time, I think that's hard to monetize. I mean, immediately, it's hard to say exactly how that's gonna make people feel and buy things down the road.
Agreed. Well,
it's not like this industry is like monolithic and will last forever, right? Like as an industry, I think it needs propping up, right? It needs moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. Well, those are just some of the things going on in the world of tabletop this week. If you know of some other news stories you'd like us to discuss, then you should head on over to our Discord server at shadowcasters.network/Discord. We've got a channel there for suggesting news items or nude items. Please don't actually put nude items in that.
You'll be banned.
It's against the rules, yeah. But you can email the nude items to contact@shadowcasters.network. We won't ban you for that. Consider.
Oh no! What have you
What
done?
did you just do?
I feel like I've made a terrible mistake.
Bobby's like, I haven't had my fill of weird gamer nudes.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you manned that one and not me.
All right. Consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/shadowcasters. Definitely subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon below. Make sure to get notified whenever we have a new video or stream. My name's Bobby, and these are the rest of the SCN crew, and we'll see you next week for some more SCN news. Seriously, don't send us nudes, guys.
That was a weird thing to say. I'm not gonna lie, Bobby.
Listen.
You can send me the nudes. Just send it to this email that my wife doesn't check.
All right, I'm not taking it. I said what I said. I'll own it.
Well, I do want to be informed. I don't want to see them, but if somebody does send you nudes, please alert the rest of us. I'd like to know that if that happens.
Okay.
Again, not to be voyeuristic, it's between you and them, but like the idea of that happening gives me some tickles. So.
Yep. Let's go to a quick, easy question before we get into the stupid game.
Ooh.
And Bobby has given you consent, by the way. That's what that means.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes, your dick pics are not unsolicited when they're
Right?
sent to contact.
It is not sexual harassment. If you want to send,
Hey,
you want to send
pause.
Oh,
So I wanted to add on to this. I just noticed in that Roll20 report, the uber dark art punk Morkborg rounds out the breakouts as the 89th most popular title on title on Roll20.
89th.
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
leap from 79 games
oh wow, yeah,
in quarter 3. So yeah,
Wow.
so it's
pretty good.
Okay, so we know when we launch our RPG, 89th is the bar to hit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll take it. What? So here's the question. Oh, here's a good easy softball from Epsy on Discord. Hot leaf water or hot bean water? Do you like tea or coffee? I think I am well known as a coffee drinker around here. I can't stop.
I like the
drinking, actually.
idea of tea better, but I drink
Why?
coffee.
Why do you like the idea of tea better? What about it?
Because I have been cultured, I think, to see tea as something that is
Highfalutin?
not well, maybe like wrapped up like you have tea ceremonies, right? And in England they have tea serving like it just
So there's
it
like
seems-
a culture aura surrounding it.
Seems very
Yeah,
formal, is what you're saying.
right, formal, right? There's lots of herbal teas, and there's so many different varieties that taste nothing like each other. Like the culture of tea is cooler and awesomer and everything. But like honestly, coffee just does it for me. It's like water. Like I like the idea of tea, but I need coffee to live.
Yeah, right.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Like I really wish tea tasted better
drink-
without sugar.
I drink black tea. Does that count?
Right, I have iced tea. Like when I'm not drinking hot stuff. Like when I go to restaurants, it's always iced tea. But like,
And I like it without sugar, even though I'm a
me
southerner.
too. Right,
So
absolutely. And by the way, see, I was raised on sugar sweet tea.
Me too.
It's like mud in my veins, but
Mhm.
but also diabetes. So
and kidney stones and
yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Fatty liver. Right, there's so many different things that go wrong just by having 4 cups of sweet tea a day.
what about you, Cliff?
As for me, normally I would have said without hesitation coffee, but recently, because of I guess a medical issue, I've had acid reflux lately. I was diagnosed with it about a year ago, and coffee exacerbates that. And I've been like, well, fuck that. I like my coffee, and I keep drinking coffee. But it's been getting worse, and to the point where like I suspect that I'm maybe starting to get like the beginnings of an ulcer. So I've
Yikes.
dropped coffee, and I've started a like anti-ulcer diet approach, basically trying to avoid the things that will exacerbate that and have the things that will make it better. And green tea has caffeine in it, so I can have that instead of coffee. And I haven't had any coffee for like 4 days now, I think. And to be honest, I thought I would be like, I want coffee, but I don't really miss it all that much. And I'm feeling better. And also, though, the other thing with tea is you can do some other cool stuff with it. Like I've been learning a lot about fermentation lately and different fermentation things. Not making alcohol yet, but that's on my eventual goals.
Like tea
But
alcohol?
I've gotten really good at making kombucha, which it has maybe has trace amounts of alcohol in it, but it's a fermented tea drink that's like it's very fizzy and kind of tangy. It's really, really good. It's growing on me. And then like this thing I'm drinking today is it's a fermented probiotic soda that I made with green tea and honey, adding a ginger bug to it, which is another whole
neat.
Did you say a bug? Like an actual living bug?
Well, it's a living thing, but it's not actually an insect. You basically take ginger and sugar and put it in water and feed it over the course of time. And this yeast bacteria stuff grows in it, and it becomes fizzy. And then you add it to like a 2-liter bottle that's mostly juice or sweetened tea or something. And over the course of a few days, the natural fermentation process carbonates it.
Wow.
So can you do that same process with coffee?
I don't know. I will have to.
Like if you just did everything the same, just with coffee instead.
Yeah.
Coffee probiotic soda or coffee kombucha.
Kombucha.
Maybe. I mean,
Coffee.
Unless there's something in the coffee that gets in the way of the fermentation, maybe I'll have to try it.
Trademark those
Maybe
names.
I'll invent it if it hasn't been.
I had to get rid of coffee for about a couple years ago, and I drank chamomile tea, which was very settling for my stomach.
Coffee. I'm a very easily habituated person, and coffee to me, I equate it with like getting shit done. You know what I mean? Like so when I'm sitting here at the computer, I'm like, all right, time to work. If I don't have coffee, I don't feel like I'm working. And
for me, like I would just equate coffee to it. Am I drinking a thing right now? If it's not alcohol, it's coffee.
Well,
it makes me sound like an alcoholic.
Sometimes I'll get my coffee and I'll be working and it'll just sit there undrunk. But like you're right, Bob. It doesn't feel like
it needs to
feel like
there.
I'm working unless the hot stuff is right in front of me.
Yeah. Because I
need coffee to start my day. If I don't have coffee, I crash. I have like 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day just to like get myself through.
2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. What do you like? Like I know you think that sounds like a lot.
You know what? I have a lot to add to this conversation. I just realized I spent the last week trying out different coffee alternatives. So I got Choffee, which is basically like coffee, but instead of roasted coffee beans, it's roasted cocoa beans. I tried Coffig, which is coffee made from toasted fig stuff. And I had, what's this other stuff called? It's
soy calf.
Not soy calf. I heard that tastes like garbage. But well, maybe not, because everybody else told me everything else is going to taste like garbage and that it's undrinkable. And I was like, actually, no, all of them are drinkable. It's fine. If you're used to like black coffee with nothing else in it, like it's just
I drink.
Bitter, shitty tasting water.
I drink black Folgers from just like a drip coffee maker.
Yeah, and then there's something else. I forgot what it was called. It's from like a root. It's a. Anyway, I tried a whole bunch of them, and they're all drinkable. The best alternative is chicory. Thank you, Palmer. Chicory, which they mix with coffee down in New Orleans, and it's a special type thing. But the chicory was great. No, they're not great. None of them are great. But the Choffee, right? The cocoa bean one. It's like coffee. If you sort of just let yourself believe it would be like coffee, but it smells like chocolate. If you can imagine that, right? It's like coffee, but it smells like chocolate.
Like a cocoa, like a hot cocoa that wakes you up.
Yeah. Yes, it doesn't taste like that at all. Mm-hmm. It's bitter, but it smells like chocolate. So there you go.
Yes.
It has also caffeine.
You heard it from all of us what our preference is. And
way more than you needed from me. Apologies.
Thanks for the
Way
question.
more we needed
Epsi.
than for any of us, I think.
Bobby warned us. Some of you have a tendency to keep talking way after the topic has burned itself out, and he pointed me out in particular by name, Opti.
I don't think this was one of those. This was one of those circumstances. I just think
Well,
we were set on this path by someone in the chat, and
yes,
so
Epsi.
The longer
thank
we
you.
talk, the more things I come up with to say.
Right, which is why I keep also trying to talk to move us to the next thing. So we're gonna
Shut up, Bobby. Shut up, Bobby. I have more to say.
All right, we're gonna start the stupid game now. Here we go. Stupid game.
El Game Stupido.
All right, it's time for the stupid game. This is where we get to take the camera and shift its focus from us and turn it to our patrons who make this happen. And we can't just say, hey, thanks, guys. We instead have to thank them by taking some of them and pitting them together in a death match in an arena. So that's what we're going to be doing today. That is, yeah. I mean, that's all the setup you need, right? What you need is a D12. I've got around here somewhere.
A long time ago, we decided that we're never going to explain the stupid game, and we're never going to apologize for it.
Right.
It's stupid. It's right there in the title. You don't need anything from us.
So, today in the stupid game, the arena is, I'm going to say, imagine an endless landscape. There's a floor, but that floor goes on forever, and it's a featureless horizon, featureless landscape. It's just flat grid of a floor. Imagine Tron, but there's no structures, nothing. It's flat, and then appears Thomas Malloy, blinks into appearance, blip, and there he is he's taking a digital form. He looks like a man, but he's got like an outline of neon green that gives away the fact that he's in a digital form, almost like someone in a video game has hovered their mouse cursor over top of him and have selected him. And there he is, looking around, wondering, why am I here? And then, just as he appeared, appears in his hand a knife, and in the other hand, a bottle of water. And that's it.
You missed the opportunity for kombucha.
we don't know if that exists yet.
It will.
In the dark future of the net. Yeah.
There's only kombucha.
All right. Next on the scene, Cliff.
Suddenly, there is a pillar a pillar of radiant light that shoots up out of the ground, just extends up into the heavens as far as the eye can see. It's everything around becomes incredibly bright, as if you'd turned up the gamma saturation way up high. That's probably the wrong use of the term, but whatever. We're gonna go with it. And suddenly it winks out just as it did before, leaving the entire arena seeming just dark and in shadow. But it isn't. It's just in comparison to the radiance that was the arrival of previous champion Michael McIntyre, who stands there in his perfectly tailored white suit that is glowing, giving off a radiant glow that is reminiscent of the pillar of light he arrived within. He straightens his tie.
Ooh. Interesting, Thomas Malloy says. Interesting. I keep doing the stupid game.
Michael McIntyre responds with, somebody has to be.
All right. Next up would be
+1 bonus.
Opti. Yeah, I feel like that's warranted.
With a loud crash, a huge metal drop pod smashes into the center of the arena. It's blue and gold marquee displaying the royal crest of the Twiligate Imperium. As if to prevent any further anticipation, the shell breaks away to reveal the striped tiger general Don Allman, conqueror of the Frelentis Nebula, destroyer of the QR culture, and redeemer of the planet Soup for You. The mech strides out of the pod, one powerful hand grasping a sword the size of a 10-story building, and the other a railgun as large as a transport truck. It thrusts upward with its boosters and points to the enemies and yells, "For the Twiligate Imperium!"
Wow. Why does this keep happening? Sorry, every time I switch to the screen of the four of us, it plays the stupid game trans thing again. All right, let's hide that, and let's hide.
Hey, this is the first time I've ever gotten a +1, I think.
Excellent, and finally, Oz.
All right, so suddenly you all hear wub 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 as dubstep just deafens your ears, and a motorcycle's just zooms past you, and a streak of light circles around you really, really quickly, and it just pauses, stops, and Jesse Early, riding this motorcycle, winks and says, "You gotta catch me, suckers!" Wub 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 wub, and it's just streaking light around in this motorcycle.
All right. It's time, everyone. It's time to roll your dice. So let's.
Can we read the bonuses first?
Sure, of course. What do you mean?
Well, we have Thomas Malloy, who's a warrior.
Representing Thomas Malloy, I was a warrior. Yes, with he's warrior level.
We have 2 rogues, Jesse Early and Don Allman, representing
+1 bonus.
It's a +1 bonus, and then we have a village hero in Michael McIntyre.
Village
which
hero.
Is a +2, which is a significant edge on the rest of.
Also a +1 bonus for a +1 dis bonus, so he's at +3.
A +1 dis bonus.
Yeah, because
someone has to be interesting.
He dissed Thomas Malloy. It gave him an extra +1, so that's a +3 for Michael McIntyre.
I guess we're making rules up, like we always have.
That was totally codified in the.
Was it really?
Yes.
Sure.
All right, roll those dice.
Very specific circumstances.
Well, I do not have this one in the bag.
9.
I mean, no, I got an 8. Sorry, I can't count.
Oh, you got an 8.
Yeah.
So
a 9 on the die, so Michael McIntyre doesn't even need those bonuses.
So Don Allman screeches loudly, "Death to the enemies of the Twiligate Imperium," and he fires up his railgun, but it's jammed, and it backfires, blowing the entire head off of his mech and him with it as he blasts off into space. Don Allman blasting off again.
Failure. Well, I think while Jesse Early is going, "Gotta catch me," Thomas Malloy looks at the knife that just appeared in his hand and the bottle of water, and he throws the bottle of water at Jesse Early's face and hits him. Knocks him off the bike.
Just cycles onto the net ground, leaving behind this trail of lights, like winking in and out, and black lights
and
just start.
Thomas
winking.
Malloy is like running at him, but like dodging all the like sparks that are flying, like, and he jumps at him with the knife in the air. But we rolled the same, so you gotta tell me how this is gonna turn out into a melee.
Jesse Early just grabs your form with with the sound waves come to light, boom, 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 and just like starts wrapping you up in like a little tornado and like blasts you backwards into Michael McIntyre.
Oh my gosh, the bass dropped indeed.
And the bass dropped.
as you're being flung towards Michael McIntyre with the large wub waves propelling you, seeming to wrap up victory for the dubstep motorcycle warrior, Michael McIntyre just simply turns toward them both and opens his eyes for the first time since he's been on the field. Radiant light spills out, just filling the area. Everything goes on pause, and it just floods the entire space till nothing can be seen except for the radiant light. And when that radiant light fades, it's again a featureless plane with only one thing there: the figure in the crisp suit of Michael McIntyre as he straightens his tie and ascends to the heavens on a pillar of light.
Holy cow! I love it.
I like to think that like when he said everything paused, Thomas Malloy actually like paused, like he's in a video game. He's like,
Yeah, and the lights just blows you away. Jesse Early has disconnected.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that was Jesse Early. Yeah, Bobby's. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, all of you, for Thomas Malloy, Michael McIntyre, who was at the Village Hero level, Don Allman, and Jesse Early at the Rogue level. Thank you guys for being patrons, and thank you for allowing us to put you in the stupid game. And thank you to all of our patrons who helped make this happen. You can become a patron yourself at patreon.com/shadowcasters. There's lots of rewards. There's lots of things you can get access to. We've got plenty of posts up there, full versions of this show, all that kind of stuff. And
please patronize us.
We appreciate being patronized. So thank you. We'll do another one of these next week and every week. So that's how you become a part of it. Oh, stupid game. Here we go. One more time. I've accidentally played the stupid game.
This game is stupid.
All right. What is that noise?
I think it's coming from Opti's house.
Oh, it must have been. I can't hear it. Oh, it sounds like my son. He's playing Fallout. Or not Fallout. Fortnite.
That's awesome.
Hey, Mark, we can hear you. Stop yelling.
All right, so do we want to... Let's go into...
That's how I parent.
That's Parenting 101. Let's do our spooky Halloween bit. It's almost Halloween, so we should do a little bit about Halloween, and then we'll end with we'll end on an uplifted note about lawsuits. No, really, I wanted to end with that because there's probably a lot of discussion to go on there. All right, so let's do that. So I'm gonna start on us. You want me to lead you in, or?
Yeah, it's in the script there. We'll lead in for you.
Here we go. Ready? So it's almost Halloween. GMs everywhere are wondering if now is the time to run a horror RPG. But in order to be a true master of horror, it takes practice. And Oz has 3 tips to get you started.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. So in the spirit of the spooky season of Halloween, I wanted to turn to the genre of horror RPGs. Now, I have plenty of recommendations for horror games, but no matter what the system is, it can be very intimidating to run a horror game. You reveal too much, you lose the intrigue, and if you reveal too little, you lose interest. If you push too hard, you risk conjuring real trauma for someone, but if you push too little, you risk it not being scary or memorable. And finally, anyone who likes horror has probably seen it all before. How do you keep someone who's genre savvy from seeing what's coming from a mile away? So before I give you my 3 tips for upping your horror game master skills, consider helping us out on patreon.com/shadowcasters, link in the description below, because we have milestone goals to produce weekly RPG actual play shows, which we would love to do again, as well as giving us the opportunity to invest back into ourselves and continue raising the quality of our content. After that plug, let's talk about horror. So no tips video in the world is going to make your horror game an enjoyable experience if you don't have players who are going to be fully invested in having fun exploring fear, dread, and helplessness. Handpick players who have shown engagement at the table to you before and confirm with them if they're even interested in playing a horror game, and especially playing your horror game, whatever concept you might have at the time. If you end up with only a fraction of your usual group interested, that is okay, because the smaller the group size, the more intimate, and therefore the more effective. So don't be disheartened. And of course, check with your players on what they do not want in their game and what difficult themes they are okay with exploring before you begin crafting your session, so you know what to push and what to hold back on. So let's do this. Tip number 1, rubber band your pacing. So when the characters are not in any present danger, slow down. Lower the volume of your voice, be breathier and thoughtful, and describe in as poetic and languid a prose you can muster. Time crawls. Help their minds sink into unsettling, cavernous voids that are the unknown. Dread, sorrow, and strangeness live here. But when the characters are in present danger, speed up, raise the volume of your voice, be snappier and direct, and give the bare minimum of description. Time is dashing. Help their minds race into a panic with only moments to react using limited information. Panic and survival instinct live here. And when the characters are partying or otherwise having a joyous moment, talk normally, conversationally. When they laugh, try to only smile and smirk. A little subtle message to your players that something is coming. Something always comes. It's lurking somewhere behind your glassy, silent smile. So enjoy this moment. Of the 3, probably the hardest to master is when the characters are in danger, because you want the players to really feel that imminent threat. So don't let them ask about an entire room's contents while they're in danger. Just answer one quick detail that they could spot that is not ideally what they would like. So for example, oh, there's a flimsy rake leaning against the wall. And then whatever they say next, follow up immediately with how the horror is upon them, limiting their time. They're either grabbing the rake or they go empty-handed. And don't let them roll to see if they spot anything better, because if that is a mechanic in your game system, there is no time for the character, and it's going to slow down your storytelling. So because it puts a pause on the action to physically look up stats and roll dice. So only let them roll for that kind of stuff if they're hiding and keeping still, because that's when a character's awareness of their surroundings really comes into play. That's when Michael Myers enters the bedroom while Jamie Lee Curtis is in the closet and he's getting closer, and what could she do? Tip number 2, plan your omens, not your action sequences. You should never snap into an action sequence, because this is the equivalent of a jump scare in a movie. It's cheap and it doesn't really set up what that horror is. It just kind of causes the player to kind of be off guard. And be like, oh, okay, I'll roll to run away. What you want is a slow build, foreshadow, right? Build that atmosphere, plan the creepy imagery and the sounds and the smells, the unsettling NPC behaviors. This is the artistry of horror, playing with the ominous. Get your players to furrow their brow. Like, they should be able to sense something is wrong, but they don't know exactly why, and their minds and hearts will race for you. When your horrors are after your players, you're playing a predator role, and that requires you to react to their panicked choices. So you'll never know where you'll actually find yourself or them. But these omens, you can plan them. What I like to do whenever I'm creating a scenario from scratch, or even if I'm using a module, is I kind of mind map on scratch paper. What are the settings that I want to explore, the human themes that come with them? How can I represent them in strange and unsettling ways? So for example, say your setting is in a vineyard out alone on the countryside. You might write down themes of alcoholism and represent that with shattered glass, right? Not just wine glasses and bottles, but also windows and mirrors. Having a grab bag of omens with carefully crafted descriptions is a great way to set the tone, and the more they show up, the more dread you can create as your session continues. And finally, tip number 3, no choice is a safe choice. Your players are always going to choose the easiest way out of your narrative, away from your monster, closer to safety. Put them in situations where the way out, quote unquote, is just as scary. And this isn't railroading, because both choices lead down different paths with different consequences and possibilities for horrors around the corner. So you can hide in the closet or you can run up the stairs. Both are probably awful, but they're going to lead to different narratives and makes their choices meaningful. And like I said, your horrors are predators. They're going to find ways to corner your players, and any prey that gets too far, misfortune will likely befall them. A cave-in, the car's fuel tank is out, the phone has no reception. What will they do next? And finally, a bonus tip is invest an unusual amount of time in creating actual ambiance. Music, dimmer lighting, fake candles, incense, colder air conditioning. And that's if you're in person. As long as your players agree to it and can function within that. Checking out the music, I suggest checking out the music label Cryo Chamber for lots of eerie, modern, dark ambient music to create your unsettling soundscapes. I first heard how powerful the conjunction of their music can be with horror narratives with the Red Moon role-playing team, which, by the way, have a great set of horror actual plays for you to listen to for more inspiration. I have no affiliation with them. I'm just a fan of their work, so I wanted to pass them along to you, and the link will be in the description below. Now, once you have everything the way that you'd like, sit in your space, soak it in. This is your time to let your mind wander and think about what are your players actually going to experience in this setting, in this atmosphere. Make adjustments to anything that's distracting and abrasive rather than supportive of your atmosphere. And you're going to find even more ideas are going to emerge to you as you do so for your mind map scratch sheet. So I guess what I'm suggesting is to imagine you're Vincent Price preparing his spooky party before the guests arrive. So there you go. Those are my 4 tips. What do you all think? I know that you all don't really have a lot of experience with running horror RPGs, but I can imagine you've all had experience running something scary. Opti in particular, with those Shadowrun settings with like Queen Euphoria or all those bug spirits and stuff. How do you feel when you run games that are just even more complicated than a typical horror RPG, but you're still kind of creating that sense of panic?
The most fun time that I ever had running a Shadowrun type game, it wasn't actually one of those bug type things. It was in the Redmond Barrens, and I created a sort of what do they call those things where like it's like a I should know this, like it's like it transports you to like another place, right? Or like something is like imposed on our reality, so like when you walk into it, it like takes you somewhere else. So I had them, magically.
Alcara? Is that
Alcara? That's it. Perfect. Thank you. Is it? Yeah, it's something like that. Some magical, thing where you walk through it and you're like in a different, it's superimposed onto the reality. So I had them go to Redmond and check out this anomaly, and they got transported back to like 1849 in England, and they were like going through Jack the Ripper, like type stuff was going on, and it took them out of their confident abilities, right? And like now they don't know what's going on, they don't know how the world operates, they're like off their game. I kept thinking as you were talking, like how absolutely golden, like if I would have thought through that omens thing that you put, I could have set it up. We had some big omens, if you will, like, right, like there's a thing in history called the Bermondsey Horror, where these 2 people were like convicted and arrested for demonic experimentation around that same time. So anyway, I brought a whole bunch of stuff together and sort of ramped up but like it wasn't very scary once they found out about it. I think what you were saying is like the buildup is more scary, right, than sometimes the payoff is. And maybe that's just my bad ability to finish what I start.
Well, no, you know what it is? It is hard to build toward, like, what the horror is usually when you're GM, what the threat is, but the question is like if you it's that old horror thing of like if you show the monster too early, the monster becomes not scary, right? So like it's all about how do you set up, and that's the part that you have to plan for sure, because that's what gives you the nuggets for you to like slowly like thread through and
so the way I rescued it was like they dealt with like the Jack the Ripper type thing, and it was like anticlimactic, and then the Alcara started collapsing around them, right? So they had to like get out, right? And so that kind of created a last minute like energizing, oh crap, so we sustained it till the end. So that's how it worked for me. I don't have any great tips, but I love the idea of horror. I feel like maybe if I would have saw this video like 10 years ago, it would have been much better.
Yeah, maybe.
Great, cool. Well, if you are... Sorry, no, pause. If you're watching this, make sure that you... Or, I don't have a good outro. This is definitely gonna be
he's the Opti of finishing segments.
All right, so if you liked this video, let us know in the comments, like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching. There, standard canned.
Standard. That's standard is good.
You should have
Standard.
said like, quick, you have 5 seconds to shut the browser or you're all dead.
I should mention in the horror context, this would be a good time to get into Legends of Earth Dawn, because we are getting to the episodes where the party is is approaching the village that the horror has taken control of. The episode that
Pretty
I dropped
scary
this
stuff.
last week involved the spirit of a little girl that had been alive when the adventurers were last there, and they had to face.
Oh, is that
deep
the
in
one
night.
that they're on?
That's the one I just dropped this last week.
We've been
is
getting
the,
a lot of
the
comments about
romance.
that one.
Yeah, it was very unsettling.
Yeah.
It involved like the death of a child and her tormented spirit that you were attempted to comfort while she's also destroying you with this grief attack, basically. And then seeing
that one.
her death through her eyes in the process of trying to comfort and release the spirit. And then before that was returning to the village and finding the partying villagers had an illusion over them that they were instead just horribly blasphemously disfigured zombies. Like horrors, they don't just want to scare you, they want to demoralize you. So they killed everyone in the village and then made animated corpses of them, but like chopped off their heads and stuck on like
Oh my gosh.
livestock heads. So like there are people walking around with goat heads. I even had like one person in the background that had like a human foot where their head
Oh
should
my.
be. And it should have been comical because they were running around bumping into things, having no effect on the combat. But the whole context of all this happening, using like, somebody running up and like they have a goat head and it gives off that like human like goat scream that you've seen in the YouTube videos that should be funny, but it's not here. Like all that was just this. I felt really good as a GM doing the horror elements in Earth Dawn.
That's cool.
And
That's cool.
as it gets deeper along and further on, man, it gets really, really,
Yeah,
really
there were
dark
some
and
times
nasty.
where I was like, God, this is really messed up. Like,
That's why, like, twice per session, I would stop and check in with
Yeah.
you guys, be like, "Is everything okay? Everybody doing okay?" Because, like I
Right,
said, this is
right.
gonna be really dark,
Right,
and
and-
that it was okay, but I
and
want to
none
make
of
sure
us-
everyone's
none of us
fine.
were-
And you're like, "Oh,
yeah.
shut up, Cliff. We're fine. Let's keep going."
Right. Right. When you have a group of people that are like all in on the things and the GM is using those things, potently, but because of they already got permission, like I think that can be a powerful thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
All right.
gonna add that bit into the video. 'Cause I'm gonna just slice it in. 'Cause
Yeah.
that was awesome.
I want to go ahead and before we ask another question, I'm gonna switch that around. I want to go ahead and get into our Wizards of the Coast lawsuit bit so that we have, in case we need it, we have time for it. So we're gonna go right into that. So we just got some news last week about some juicy goings-on involving Wizards of the Coast and a Dragonlance trilogy of novels, and I thought that we here, the gang, I would take a deep dive and we'd talk about what's going on with that and do that. So I'm going to do that now. So first off, Dragonlance, it's a favorite D&D setting that's been around since the 80s with over 15 novels, dozens of adventure modules. Fans love it. And, well, we just found out that a new trilogy of Dragonlance novels was contracted to be published, written by none other than Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, the ones who wrote all the other stuff. So very exciting news. However, don't get too excited because the reason we got this news was that Weiss and Hickman have filed a breach of contract lawsuit against Wizards of the Coast for unlawfully terminating their contract. So that's cool. So let's go into the quick details before we sort of bounce back and forth between like what's going on with this, some discussion about it and everything. So here we go. The lawsuit was filed on Friday, October 16th to the Western District Court of Washington and is demanding a trial by jury for the complaints of breach of contract, breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing, and tortious interference with contract. And we'll get into what that means in a little bit. But all we have as far as details goes is a lawsuit, the lawsuit filing document. So all of this stuff that I'm going to be talking about comes from that, other than our opinions and analysis, of course. But some other bits of information that you might want to know to set this up is that in March 2019, Weiss and Hickman licensed a new Dragonlance trilogy from Wizards of the Coast. Weiss and Hickman wrote the first two, Dragon of Deceit and Dragons of Fate. The book one, first manuscript, was approved by Wizards of the Coast actually in January 2020. There's some talk about like changing it towards the end and doing some things, which we'll get into in a minute, but they actually finished book one, and a full draft of book two was already completed. So a lot of it was done before this all happened. And then Wizards of the Coast terminated the contract in August 2020. So the main question is, how is this unlawful? And this is the point where if you have any questions, I'm talking to my compatriots here. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, then jump right in because there's a lot to go through that we could go through here. But how is this unlawful? Well, according to Weiss and Hickman, because again, and I will reiterate, what we have here, and I'm no lawyer, but I did read the entire document for the lawsuit filing because it was juicy and exciting. But we only have that, so that also means we only have their side of the story. All right? I just want to caveat all of that. According to Weiss and Hickman, none of the termination provisions on their contract with Wizards of the Coast were triggered at all. So that's their first thing about why this was unlawful. There was no material breach, they called it. There was no written notice of a breach, and there was no 30-day cure period initiated. So I don't know. I looked a lot into this, but I didn't find out exactly what a cure period is. It sounds to me like an arbitration, maybe akin to arbitration of some kind. Anyway,
it sounds maybe like a, hey, just so you know, you're within breach of contract. Maybe you have like 30 days to not be under breach of contract, or can we like, figure this out? Exactly.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what it sounded like to me. So they
okay, but what about this tortious interference? That's what I'm more interested in.
Yeah, so let me that's actually
I think it has to do with tort law, right? Not torture.
Right. Yes. That's 100% true. You're right about that. But that's the juicy part. So I'm going to get there. I promise.
Okay.
So instead, Wizards of the Coast decided that they would not approve any further drafts. All right. Effectively terminating the contract. Now, that's important because Weiss and Hickman claimed that nothing in the contract states that Wizards of the Coast can terminate the contract based on a failure to provide approval for the product or anything like that. In fact, they say that the contract states that Wizards of the Coast must provide reasonable details regarding what needs to be changed within no more than 10 days of receiving the draft, which they had done for various parts before. So the contract does state that they're supposed to say, this is what we don't like, this is what needs to be changed, and change something, but there's no provisions for actually terminating the contract on that basis. And they claim that what Wizards of the Coast then did is said, we're just not going to approve any further drafts, basically unilaterally stating that they're no longer accepting them and effectively terminating the contract and breaching that part of the agreement, right? This
seems even more stupid than Wizards of the Coast not showing up to Gen Con anymore. When there was a Gen Con. Like, why would they do that? It's so obviously in breach of the contract. They've got to have lots of lawyers who work for them. Like, this just seems blatantly unwise.
It seems that way, right? But it gets juicier. So you asked about tortious interference. So what is that? Tortious interference is also known as intentional interference with contractual relations. And that's when a third party intentionally damages someone else's contractual or business relationships, resulting in economic harm. Now, third party is important here. So there's a little bit more that you have to understand. The Weiss and Hickman were not just did not just have a contract with Wizards of the Coast. They also had already set up a publishing agreement with who was it? Let me look at my notes here.
Penguin Random House.
Penguin Random House.
Oh, I see. They are bastards.
So
I know where this is going already.
So Opti might see the writing on the wall.
I don't.
What dicks?
So what they think happened, and they claim that they know about this and they have evidence for it. They allege that they discovered that Wizards of the Coast was engaged in back channel activities to disrupt their publishing agreement with Penguin Random House. Okay, they claimed that Wizards of the Coast were talking with Penguin Random House in private calls, trying to undermine their payment agreement with them, and effectively making it so that like Penguin Random House would not pay them anymore. So then it would like kind of lead to this process, right? Because as if they're getting paid, I guess, like it's a lot harder for them to make because remember, Wizards of the Coast, or maybe not remember, but understand that Wizards of the Coast gets with all of these agreements going on between three parties, Wizards of the Coast is going to be getting a percentage, a licensing agreed upon percentage of whatever the publisher is paying the writers. So when they get paid, a percentage of that has to be paid out to Wizards of the Coast.
So if Wizards can convince Penguin not to pay them,
right,
then they aren't suffering from the contract being broken, even if it's not technically broken.
Right, exactly.
That's shit.
So all of this sets up like what has happened, but one thing you might be wondering is why would they do this? And this is all laid out in this lawsuit document, and it's so... I'm not going to recommend anybody read a court filing. That's just... But I was glad I read it. It's quite juicy. So why would they interfere? Why would Wizards of the Coast do about this? Now, of course, this is speculation by myself, and also, even though we're speculating a little bit and might be talking about this, all the facts I'm going to give you are laid out in this lawsuit filing. So what they said in that is that it, quote, had to do with the defendants, and the defendant being Weiss and Hickman, the authors, had to do with the defendants and Hasbro's public relations. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back that up. I'm going to back that up. The defendant is Wizards of the Coast, okay? Because they're accusing Wizards of the Coast. So they're the ones that are going to be defending themselves. So they say it had to do with the defendants and Hasbro's public relations disasters with respect to the defendants' workplace management and intellectual properties unrelated to the Dragonlance trilogy. So they're claiming that they think the reason that their contract was terminated was because they didn't want to deal with this kind of stuff that might get them into trouble, I guess, hypothetically down the road because of things that they had to fix. And the reason that they think that is because back in June 2020, their editorial oversight for the novel changed. For the whole trilogy, they removed names. These are names that I haven't heard of before, but I'm going to give them to you because they might mean something to somebody listening. They removed Liz Shue and Hillary Ross from the oversight team and replaced them with Nick Kellman and Paul Morrissey. Now, apparently, Nick Kellman is the head of story and entertainment over there at Wizards of the Coast, so it seems to make sense that they would be put on there, but they think that it was quite a controversial choice to put them on their team because he has been the target of criticism for his published works in the past. In 2019, he had a sexually explicit novel called Girls, a Paean. I don't know how you pronounce it. Paean. Anyway, it was a sexually explicit novel that was subject to public discussion about whether it promoted misogyny and pedophilia. And they got into a lot of hot water because of that. Of course, we also know, and this was cited in the court document, that recently they've been into a lot of trouble with, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, if one of you guys do remember, the employee that was there.
Orion Black?
Yes, Orion Black. So they've had a lot, they've dealt with a lot of public relations problems lately, having to do with sensitivity and sexually explicit material. We even talked about some of it on one of our news segments. And so they're claiming that once this happened, they started asking them a lot of questions. After this change of oversight, they received comments related to sensitivity issues in their novels, about the use of love potions in their novels. They wanted them to change that. Concerns of sexism and inclusivity and negative connotations of characters' names. They got these like bullet point lists that included all these things. Weiss and Hickman did, saying, we need to deal with these problems, and that had never popped up before, even after the first novel had allegedly, the manuscript had been approved. So now, all of a sudden, after these people get right at the 0 hour, like right recently, right back in June, all these things start popping up. And then, suddenly, I
see.
You know, all this starts happening.
Yeah.
Weiss and Hickman also claimed that they accommodated any explicit and implied reservations that and rewrite requests that were given, and sensitivity rewrites requests, they did all of it, but then suddenly they said, well, we're not going to approve any more drafts. They just said that. Sorry.
I think I got it. I think I know what's happening here. Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead. This is speculation. But
okay.
Yeah.
So it is speculation, but I think I've got it. So Wizards has been dealing with PR nightmare after nightmare, right? Particularly like in big deal type issues, right? They got it. Mike Merles and the sexual stuff. Did we talk about that, or did we talk about that just in
that was in the I think
in passing in
lead up to
our
the show.
pilot episode? Yeah. So we talked about that a little bit, but also the orcs, right, type thing, and like the agency and evilness or goodness of an inherent race. Talking about race as stand-ins for other things, right? So they've been getting it like in love potions, right? Like the desirability of taking away player agency. Like, so they've been getting hit by a lot of what's the word? I'm going to say social justice warrior, like as somebody who identifies that way, right? But they've been getting hit by that faction, like to clean up their act, right? Like get along with the times and sort of move on. And recently, and I didn't even become aware of this until very recently, because I read the novels quite a long time ago and very much loved them and loved the setting. But can we get religious a little bit? Like, can we just talk about it?
Go for
respectfully
it.
Or not? Okay.
Yeah.
So 50% of the writing team of Dragonlance is Mormon, and there is a lot of Mormon allegory baked into the original setting, right? And on top of that, you've got a lot of problematic stereotypes that build on some of the more problematic ideas contained in Mormonism. Like, I'm not saying that Mormonism is problematic. I'm saying that there is a faction of people who believe that those things are problematic. Like, for example, white-skinned Native American people being the chosen people, right?
Well, okay.
So having a sort of white-skinned Native American-like people, right, in the Dragonlance setting, as a stand-in. There's the only reason I bring this up is because Dragonlance has been coming under heat from certain places, and I wonder if D&D or Wizards just said, you know what, we have already got enough of this on our plate that we do not want to deal with some of this inherent misogyny, some of these problematic views, and some of the religious overtones that might come with their work. We would rather just cut this loose, and oh shit, the contract was too airtight, so what can we do? And then they start acting shady with Penguin in order to sort of cut their losses and have them nullify the contract, even though they aren't doing it officially. Does that sound plausible?
Sounds plausible to me, based on, because ultimately my take was that it just seems like there was something that they didn't like and that they didn't have a desire to fix.
I think getting, whatever they paid them to write these novels, it's probably a drop in the bucket compared to what they would have, lost in bad PR, right, for releasing something and then like that they just didn't see because they're not sensitive people, right? So they get in a bunch of sensitivity readers who probably went through the thing, and like for the 80s, this probably would have been a great novel. But like now in the 2010s, like, man, there's a lot of problematic stuff that's popping up on every page. This is
even
really
worse than
beating.
that, I'm not even sure from my read of it, and I could be wrong about this. I'm not an expert in the field, but it doesn't seem like their Wizards of the Coast is even paying them. They just have a licensing agreement with them.
That would even that's even more reason for Wizards to say, well, right, and even more reason for Weiss and Hickman to be upset. Now, I'm not making a call on whether or not it's problematic. I'm making a call as to whether or not Wizards of the Coast might think it's potentially problematic and want to cut ties before other people beat them to it.
Right. And so the weird thing, it feels like, is that they've already gotten money for this. Wizards has. And
how so?
Well, because they've all along the way they get a licensing percentage from the payments that the publisher sends to Weiss and Hickman.
So if there's like, where's the money coming from?
The money is coming from Penguin Random House.
So wouldn't Penguin be upset with Wizards and want to sue them?
I think that...
Because if Penguin's already been paying out and Wizards is the one who said, never mind, ha ha ha, sorry, suck it, chummers. Right? Like, why would Penguin put up with that?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert, and there's a lot about this that I don't understand. And we just got this. It just this past Monday, it just came out. So there's probably a lot.
Or maybe Weiss and Hickman are having to pay back the stuff because it was a forward. Maybe, I don't know. I'm way guessing, right? But if they were given an advance in order to make these books based on promised profit.
Yeah. Now, I did not watch this video, but Relevant Epsilon in the chat says that that there's a lawyer summarized breakdown from the channel Lawful Misses with Leonard French Lawful Masses with Leonard French on YouTube, who did a breakdown of this whole thing. So if you're watching this, you should check that out. I'm sure a lawyer has a lot more informed things to say about this than me, but very very interesting, especially since Dragonlance is pretty popular. So
Cliff, you were going to say something, and I kept going with my thought, but I know I made a note to come back to you.
Well, it might have made sense in the context, but it doesn't make sense to bring it up now. But I would like to say that if Wizards of the Coast would like to start tackling and dealing with some of these issues and problems that are coming up from the problematic nature of some of which that they've inherited and some of which are systemic within their organization, they need to start by firing Mike Merles.
Yeah.
I think we all sort of agree with that. Yeah.
So
and we should do a show about that, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to.
When it will become relevant again, and it will.
Right.
We'll hit it then. Yeah.
Well, it's always relevant. It's always there hanging. The specter's hanging there in the backdrop.
Yeah, for anyone looking for some context, just Google Mike Merles and Zach Sabbath.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For
or
sure.
Don't,
find
if
the
you,
whole
if you
ball
want
of
to
wax.
enjoy your rest of your
right.
Yeah.
No, but we
Or
should
just
definitely do a what's it called? We need to come back to this topic especially after we watch this lawyer summarized breakdown and see like if we can get a better handle on
Absolutely. That's what I wanted to say. We are, as more information comes out and as we learn more about what's going on, we'll bring it up. So check out.
We're not taking sides, by the way. We're just speculating. As to what the problems are.
Yep. So definitely check that out. If you want to be notified when a video like that comes out, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click the bell icon to get the notifications right away. Check out our Patreon if you like what we're doing here. Patreon.com/Shadowcasters. And thank you for watching. We'll catch you every Sunday night live at 9 p.m. Eastern for this live show that we do live. So thank you. Talk to you next time.
Bop. Very interesting.
Yeah. Let's get right into a question that we'll end with. I wanted to hit this question because it was brought up by Palmer, who's a patron, and so we got to give him priority for a question. And then it was modified by friend of the network Trav over on our Discord server. So Palmer asked the question a little while ago, a couple of days ago. Said, "What makes an actual play?" Or he thought we should talk about this. What makes an actual play and not, like, say, an audio drama, and vice versa? Trav sort of modified a little bit and said, at what point would you say that an actual play crosses over into audio fiction? Is it always an actual play because it involved improv and game rules, or does it stop being an actual play if you don't include the mechanics or dice rolls? Is every actual play a category of audio fiction because of the imagined story nature, or is a defining difference having a pre-written script for the actors? So I thought, as people who have both made audio fiction, audio drama, and actual plays here, that that you guys might have something to say about where the difference is, if there's a difference, and whatnot. So, what do you think? What, Cliff, to you defines an actual play, and why do you call your stuff that you do, because you've been doing actual plays for a very long time, probably longer than any of us, and why do you call yours an actual play over, say, an audio drama?
Well, I'd like to just first off say that I agree with the Audioverse Awards distinction in recent years that actual plays are audio dramas. They're a
interesting.
subcategory or subgenre, and I call mine actual plays because that's what they were already being called when I started doing them.
Fair.
I feel the distinction is, I mean, there are different kinds of audio dramas and audio fiction, but an actual play, I feel, is firmly within the category of those, under that umbrella. It doesn't cross the line into audio fiction, it's already there. The defining distinction is the improvisational nature of the actual play, even though it's pre-recorded and then edited. It's still improvised, and you're mostly using the improvisations that come up from there. And a lot of times, the people who are producing it don't know the direction that the story is going to end up going. And
Right.
so the other distinction is that it's not just an improv audio fiction; it's an improv audio fiction with a set of game rules that have some influence, whether minor or significant, on the course of actions that happen. There's not many improv acting dramas where, so and so, this character is now suddenly in a worse position because the number came up on the die that happens to correspond with that result. I feel that opening up a certain amount of randomness, inviting that into the improvisational experience, that doesn't take anything away from the artistic nature of the audio fiction. It's certainly less prepared and less what is it, like honed or edited down? What's the word I'm looking for? Well, those will work.
It's a little more raw. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's more raw, less polished. That's the word I'm looking for. The dialogue perhaps might actually be more natural in an actual play than it might be in a scripted audio drama, because that is dialogue that is occurring in that context. So it's all a swirling ball of art, ultimately.
I really like and I guess it's ultimately not yours, but the Audioverse Awards made this sort of distinction you said. I like the idea of calling actual play a subgenre of audio drama because it's doing everyth't that you said. Like, you have audio dramas that are fully scripted, like things like our good friend Damien Zidlow, who does
I like how you just stumble across and finally get out that, and it's
It was hard to get that part out.
Our good friend Damien.
I had to choke. I choked a little bit. I had to swallow that back. But his the stuff that he does, like Cybernautica, is clearly audio drama. It's fully scripted and voice acted. But then you have other things that are like, there are several examples that I know that we've dealt with in the Shadowrun world and in other places as well, where they play a game together that might be highly controlled, or if you were playing at a home game, you might call it railroaded, but they're doing it for performative reasons. But controlled game, and what they do is they take the improvised action at the table and then cut out all the rules discussions and just leave the role playing and the acting and improvising in to weave together a story that feels like audio drama and really is, but it's driven by that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my aesthetic approach is instead to just have almost all of that still in there. Like, I'm roll your perception test. I got 5 hits. Well, this means this. Well, I'm going to spend edge to do that. Like, for me, that's part of it. I think that's part of where it starts to transcend what an audio drama is, and it invites people to sort of sit at the table and vicariously experience the role-playing game experience with the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling. I'm struggling with the awards definition, because in my thinking of it, like the way that my brain frames it, actual plays are just recording people playing a game, right? So like, it's like recording any other part of your life. Like, if I recorded my family having dinner every day for the next 20 years, and then I edited it all together, right, to create a movie out of it, I could do that. I guess that would be a drama, but
somebody's probably doing that actually.
right. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to disagree that like the end product could be dramatic or considered an audio drama, but there is a scale, I think, that on one side it's not an audio drama, it's just a recording of people playing a game. And it's just not an audio drama at all. There's nothing particularly dramatic about it. It's just a thing happening that's getting recorded. And on the other side, you have fully scripted, voice acted, no game mechanics at all. It's just a complete drama. And Cliff, you and I, in the stuff that we do, we shift that, more towards the audio drama than just plain game, because of what Palmer does on the other side of it, and because we kind of know. Sometimes we talk about what's going to happen, just to make sure that we're able to get through some parts. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where the line is, but there's a point at which it does not feel audio drama to me, and feels just like a game.
I
think for the benefit of our audience, we sort of spruce it up a little bit with like audio drama, shine, glitter, whatever you want to say, but
sound effects and music and all that.
Yeah.
And audio, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a good question would be, what makes the difference between a documentary versus, like in movies, right? Documentary versus fictional, right? Scripted. And that's basically the case. Documentary and actual play is you are recording something happening in real life, and no matter how you edit it together, you can add music and sound effects and all that. It is still a live raw recording that is being sliced together and presented. And it's like, here is an actual play. And whether you're slicing it or not, right? You might provide the full length, or you might cut it up and dress it up. But then when you start doing something like one of the first things that came to mind was Sonic Realms. What they do is they will take the events of their actual play and then re-record them dramatically and put them together as an audio. At that point, that's an audio.
It's scripted, drama. Right? It's scripted though, right?
Yes.
And the script is more or less like their game.
Right. That's their writing process, essentially, right?
No, I want to say, I think one of the underlying questions that's at the heart of this that I kind of seem to perceive, maybe it's not there, maybe it's just me being paranoid, but what I feel like the underlying question is here is, hey, if you don't script things out, have nice voice acting with professional voice actors, sound effects, and really, really highly polished, put together, technically expertised, constructed thing, it's not good enough to be called an audio drama.
Yeah, somehow lesser than the audio drama.
Yeah, it's putting qualitative values and certain criteria and holding that up as the gold standard of art within its category, and I mean, categorically don't like that.
I disagree. I mean, that's the difference between documentary versus narrative film.
Yeah, but you don't ask the question, are documentaries even films?
Yeah,
that's what this
Cliff makes a good
is.
point.
The real difference, even audio dramas.
Right. The real difference between
I think it's apples and oranges, right? It would be like, are actual plays valid podcasts? Well, of course they are. You know what I mean? Like, but are documentaries films? Well, like, yes. Well, but like they're two different maybe part of the problem is that there's not an actual play category that stands on its own. And so it feels like the actual plays have to compete with audio dramas for the same sort of...
I don't know that documentary is the best comparison, or maybe it is, and maybe I'll explain because I just thought of it, but like the real difference between a documentary and, say, like you said, a narrative story that you just write and do is intent, right? A documentary is intending to show or educate or something, and it's
is Spinal Tap a documentary?
No, it's a mockumentary. That's the word. Yeah. But again, that's about intent, right? So I think, so maybe that goes back to the intent. The real distinction maybe is intent. Actual play, maybe the intent is in the name. You're trying to show actual play of this game, and if you're not doing that, maybe you're not an actual play.
Well, like, would it be like a news show then, right? Like where it's not fiction, right? It's conveying information. No, there's definitely story and drama though, right? Yeah, there is a difference.
Yeah. No, news is just giving you like, hey, this is what occurred in the news today.
I am happy to
a documentary has a storyline. Like there is a thread that and it's a pastiche of footage and information.
So at a certain point there was no award category for documentary. They were all just movies, right? And I think that at a certain point we all kind of said, you know what, this as a category deserves its own set of awards, right? I think that's, without demeaning actual plays at all, I would love it if actual plays got their own category.
Do. I mean, they have their improvised audio fiction is under there, as opposed to different categories within the Audioverse Awards, at least.
But like, is actual play like improvised? Is that's
improvised audio drama is what it's listed.
Yeah, because that's not exactly the same as an actual play either. Really, like if you ever listen to what is it? Live from the Magic Tavern or something Magic Tavern. It's there are a lot of that is improvised. There's a lot of improv comedy shows where they are improvising.
Or like Tales from the Thuffer Shack, right? Like that's more improvised stuff, right? It's not necessarily playing a game, right?
No, we were playing a game for sure.
Were you playing a game? Okay, I didn't.
We were playing Shadowrun Anarchy for sure during that.
But the Magic Tavern show that I'm talking about is a comedy improvised show where they just get comedians on to talk, and they're not playing a game. They're just they're basically doing stage improv with continuity on a podcast. That is what it sounds like is improvised audio drama. But actual plays to me are clearly different.
I don't want to have to compete. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, this is not a competition, of course, but like, I don't want to have to stand against something that is so different in order to say, here's, like, I'll stand with our Earth Dawn game and with our Shadowrun Origins stuff. Like, we do some top quality shit, but like, to the average person, I don't think that that's going to compare with even like a Sonic Realms or like another, like even what Damien's doing with Cybernautica. They're just not the same thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to compare them. I don't know. If that makes any sense.
I feel like we've strayed so far away from the original question. I think for me, I'm just sort of cutting down to like, is our actual plays audio drama? Are they audio fiction? Yes, absolutely. They're a different kind. There's lots of we can categorize the different key attributes that make one different from another, but they're still all under the same general category of audio fiction. There's stories being told through audio. I don't think it serves us to define it any further, except maybe if you're putting together an awards ceremony, you might want to have an improvised audio fiction that's maybe different from game related content. But there was something you said, Opti, as well, when you're talking about if you're just recording a game versus a scripted story. Well, if you're playing a role-playing game, you are creating a story that you're improvising together. You're not just playing a game. If you were to record people narrating their chess moves, unless there was some other story element in there, I might be on board with saying, that doesn't count as audio fiction. But even there are contexts where I could even say that might fit as well. So, but I tend to have pretty broad definitions of what is art. Like, there was a really interesting video on what counts as music by a channel I watch called 12 Toad. It's kind of nerdy music theory stuff. But the big question of like what counts as music, whether can there be good music, can there be bad music, and ultimately the conclusion that it comes down to that I completely agree with is music is sound that is perceived as music. That's you can't get any further than that in defining it. Otherwise, you're bringing in all these different qualitative and sort of gatekeepy elitist measures that put things above or below others, and that's just not how art works for the most part. I mean, some people would like it to work. Never mind. It's all a big complicated mess.
That's definitely the chaotic part of your alignment bleeding through. I think you don't like labels. It sounds like it is what you're making. It is what it is. It's.
I don't like labels that serve to
gatekeep.
Glued.
but also assign different meanings that aren't helpful.
Sure.
If you're using a label to help you understand and clarify, great. But if you're using a label, it's so easy to use labels and categories to instead obscure and, again, exclude.
Or also demean. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like just kind of make it seem like lesser than or greater than it actually its partners would be.
Yeah.
Or just delve too much into details that really don't matter too much other than like, this flavor of this or that. Yeah, maybe it's a fun discussion sitting across a cup of coffee or tea, as your preference might be. But
this was audio.
That's all there is
This was
to it.
dramatic.
True. That's we've
No.
solved it. It's all if you're listening and you find it dramatic, it's audio drama.
But there was no story.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
Well, we'll have to. We want to hear your comments about what you think audio drama is. There, I'm learning. So comment below and let us know what you think. I think that's going to be it for us tonight. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, and thank you all for doing a show with me tonight. It was a blast.
Yeah.
High pressure.
High pressure.
All right. We will be back next week, same time, same place. So once again, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/shadowcasters if you haven't. Just go to the website, shadowcasters.networks and or shadowcasters.network. And
Singular.
Yeah, singular. Only one. There's
And
only
wait,
one.
Bobby, what was that email address for the photos you requested?
The noodles.
Shadowcatchers.networth.
Yeah. Our email address, though, is contact@shadowcasters.network. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with some more tabletop news, discussion, and analysis. And bye-bye.
Everybody.